It is pretty much the same story up and down the South Carolina coast, with Charleston about to take the major fury of Hurricane Hugo. Karen Maginnis with an update up to the moment. Karen?
Patrick, our latest radar loop indicates that the eye has already moved onshore. Let's go ahead and show you that. We have a sequence from just a few hours ago. As you watch this, you will notice that the eye moves onshore, almost a direct hit for Charleston, South Carolina. They can expect a storm surge there of 10 to 12 feet. Downtown, no doubt, will be flooded. And we're also expecting 15 inches of rain. Already, they have received 3 inches of rainfall there today. Here's our satellite image, and there you can see the eye of the storm. It really picked up some strength overnight. It's a Category 4, a devastating storm. We will have an update on sports tonight. Patrick, back to you.
All right, Karen. Well, as you say, we will have that update during sports tonight. This has been a CNN special on Hurricane Hugo. We will have a complete report and coverage of Hurricane Hugo in a half an hour on Newsnight, and then our coverage of St. John, South Carolina, which is, as we say, just to the south of Charleston. Donna?
All right, once again, let's go ahead and check in with Karen Maginnis for the latest on Hurricane Hugo. Karen?
Well, Hugo has moved onshore, as we've heard, at Charleston, South Carolina, more specifically at Fort Moultrie, South Carolina. If you're wondering where that is, Charleston sits on a peninsula, and just across the bridge there in Charleston are the barrier islands of Sullivan's Island and the Isle of Palms. And on Sullivan's Island, there is Fort Moultrie, an old fort. Winds are 135 miles per hour. And we are looking at the coordinates here. We're still monitoring the eye of that storm, 32.7 degrees north, 79.9 degrees west. It continues to move in its northwesterly trek, just about 22 miles an hour. We had a peak wind gust reported at the National Weather Service Center in Charleston of 85 miles per hour. And in through some of those coastal areas with the astronomical high tide, which will be occurring probably in about an hour to an hour and a half, you could see a storm surge of as much as 20 feet. And you could also see 15 inches of rainfall from Hurricane Hugo, with its winds at 135 miles an hour. Earlier in the evening, I spoke with Dick Cheneau. He's the chief meteorologist at the National Weather Service Center there in Charleston. He was saying that as we spoke, the roof was rattling overhead. I have plenty of relatives who live in the Charleston area. We spoke with my sister earlier. She said you can hear things go bump in the dark. And the winds, she estimated and heard over the radio that they were just about 80 miles an hour. And we are ready to go to the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables with Bob Case, and he's going to update us on the situation with Hugo. What can you tell us right now?
Well, right now, Karen, the eye has moved on to the land. It's over Charleston. We've had some unofficial reports at the weather office. Part of the roof came off the weather office. They had to abandon. We also heard that the EOC building was literally coming apart. Some of the people there were hiding under desks to protect and save their lives. We had an unofficial wind report of 100-mile-an-hour sustained winds in downtown Charleston with gusts to 119. Out in Orangeburg, which is on inland, we had some official reports from ham operators that they had winds of upwards to 70 miles per hour. Tremendous tree damage, trees down, roads blocked, communications out throughout the area.
What do you anticipate will be the path of Hurricane Hugo? I'm standing in front of what we have put as the projected path, but what do you see perhaps over the next 5 or 6 hours?
Okay, well, if I could... Okay, this gives you a little better idea. We're expecting the hurricane to continue inland, back in close to the eastern slopes of the Appalachians, making a right turn, and in 24 hours be up in the southern West Virginia, southwestern Virginia. And then the following 48 hours continue on up through the mid-Atlantic states through New England.
What about some of those tidal basins in through Virginia and throughout the mid-Atlantic and southern New England? Is that something they have to worry about as well?
Well, as with everything, there's good news, there's bad news. With the hurricane, indeed, if it does go farther inland, it'll lose its intensity, it'll lose its strength, much more so than if it had recurved and stayed close to the water where it could have maintained some of its strength. So we won't expect nearly the pounding waves and the surf and the high winds along the coast, with it going further inland. That's the good news. But the bad news is the further inland it goes, the more the upslope of the Appalachians will affect it, the heavier will be the rains, the more flash flood problems we'll have.
Right. And they've already received some heavy rainfall earlier this week with that trough of low pressure, which moved down towards the southeast. One more question, and this may sound like a trivial question, but a lot of people have plans to go to the football games, the collegiate football games in South Carolina at Clemson and through Central North Carolina State. What can we tell them at this point? Just wait and see?
I don't think an umbrella would be appropriate. There's going to be some winds, and there's going to be a lot of rain, so only the true sportsmen will show up.
I dare say. I think some of those roads are going to be quite flooded there, don't you agree?
I would think so.
Okay.
I think it may be quite dangerous.
Thank you, Bob Case, the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida. Now back to Patrick and Donna.
All right, let's go. John Holloman is in Charleston. And, John, the last time we talked with you, you were in the eye of the storm. I suspect you probably still are. John Holloman.
It's John Holloman again, live from the eye of Hurricane Hugo. What I can show you now, you can probably see the rain is beginning again as the lower edge of the storm begins to come to where I am. A few minutes ago, before the eye came to our location, the rain was blowing this way. And now that it's blowing this way, we know we're on the other side of the storm, and the strongest winds, actually the wind is picking up so dramatically while we are standing here talking, it is really remarkable. What I'm going to attempt to do is let you just see some of the effects of the wind as the storm came through here a little while ago. I'm going to walk this way and show you some of the pine tree limbs that were here earlier. You can see a giant cherry picker truck that's over here. You can see a metal structure that has come down over the fence here. These huge pine trees, several of them have already come down. And there are cars damaged out here. There are various pieces of equipment that have been damaged by falling trees here. We are told in the area of downtown Charleston, South Carolina, the old town, the city that you see in the postcards from Charleston, it's under a foot of water right now, and the water continues to rise as the storm surge from the eye of Hugo's effects are still felt. High tide here is actually expected in about 20 minutes from right now. The high tide would bring the water up 5 feet. The storm surge expected to bring the water up another 12 to perhaps 15 feet. So the water in downtown Charleston will eventually be well above the breakwater that we showed you pictures of several hours ago this evening. The winds, as I guess you can see, are continuing to pick up. You can see more of these pine tree branches now, perhaps wave in the winds. Hurricane forecasters always tell you that the winds on the leading edge of the storm are stronger than those on the trailing edge. And for those of us who are out here in this with you right now, we certainly hope that is true. We discovered after we went inside the emergency management building and the roof began to ripple that there were some serious bad effects there, and sections of the roof are gone. As we walked over to another shelter building, we discovered that sections of the roof of that shelter building had also come down. So there are huge pieces of corrugated steel all over the ground in this area, and the high winds continue to come. They're blowing at us now, and we're not sure really how long we'll be able to stay here with you, but
we're expected to be about 135 miles per hour. During the past few minutes, we've had a report of over 100-mile-per-hour winds in downtown Charleston, gusting to 119 miles per hour. The radar in Charleston also lost power during the last few minutes. The hurricane will continue to move inland for the next several hours. Conditions up in the area around in the northern part of the South Carolina coast will continue to decrease. In other words, the winds will continue to come up in that area. The storm surge will continue to rise in that area for the next several hours. The eye is quite large, which will bring a calm period into that area. People should not go out into the eye. The winds will come from the other direction and be quite strong as the eye passes over. Stay indoors, wait till it all passes, go out tomorrow morning. I'm Bob Sheets from the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida.
Live now from New York, Dan Rather, underscoring what Bob Sheets said. The eye of this particular hurricane, very large. It's calm right in the eye. The temptation is to go out when it gets calm, but remember the backside of that wall is coming and get hit with terrible force. CBS News correspondent Frank Courier filed this report just a short while ago from a windswept...
some years ago that The wind right now is blowing probably 65 to 80 miles an hour. It's blowing so hard now, I think it's probably better for me and our CNN crew to get in out of the wind. We'll talk to you later as soon as we can reestablish our contact. John Holloman, CNN Live, Charleston, South Carolina.
And, you know, John Holloman was talking about communication and how the weather has affected that, and some things that the folks might find interesting. We have usually been able to talk to our correspondents when they're out in the field doing live reports for us, but with the weather, we have lost things like IFBs, they call them, and so the director goes ahead and cues them. Usually he can hear us, and in fact, we have earpieces, perhaps you can see, that we plug into our ears, that we can hear the control room and the director is talking to us, and we can go ahead and talk to our correspondents, but we've lost quite a bit of that, and as we've told you before, they're on cellular phones, and we try to keep the communication up as best we can.
And of course, John, as he was standing out there, pointed out that the wind was starting to pick up, and we have portable units, and the picture that you were seeing was going from the camera to the unit and then to a satellite. Now, of course, earlier we tried this, and it wouldn't work because the signal from what is referred to as a KU band, and not being a technical whiz, I don't know exactly how that works, but essentially that has to go up, hit a satellite, comes here, then goes out to by cable to your home. Well, that wasn't possible because, of course, there's a tremendous amount of cloud cover, wind, and whatnot that stops the transmission from our ground station.
And in fact, earlier when we were talking to John Holloman, he was on a cellular phone, said he wanted to save the batteries, and he was going to call us back, and he said when he was in the eye of the hurricane, when we did talk to him a second time, said we wouldn't believe it, and he noticed that parts of the CNN satellite dish were missing, whether they were taken or the wind. Yes, so that's fortunate for us.